It's already become fashionable to consider the PlayStation Vita a guaranteed disaster. And it hasn't even had a chance to get out the gate in North America yet. It launches later this month in February 2012 in North America. It hasn't done well in Japan. Sony's reduced their shipments to Europe from what they were originally planning to ship. And they really haven't sold as well as nearly as well as they should, as one would expect, what Sony hoped. I mean, people were pessimistic about the 3DS before it launched, saying it was going to fail. When it launched and was selling less than expected, it was basically, I see Nintendo made a lot of the same mistakes with the 3DS launch that Sony made with the PlayStation 3 launch when they have a previous system that has such strong brand recognition and the technology in the successor is so awesome that they really expected the new system to launch based on that. And the second that didn't happen, 3 months in, Nintendo went straight into survival mode and put on the brakes and just totally changed their approach. Uh, PlayStation Vita, I mean, if 3DS had a failed launch, this is based only on Japan, of course, at this point. If 3DS had a bad launch, then Vita's launch is really just abysmal, and it's already become very fashionable to consider the whole platform just a lost cause. And Sony seems really intent, just with the fact that they dropped the PSP branding, starting a whole new identity for the system. They really did not want the Vita to be a stopgap, just sort of to be a side platform, sort of like the PSP was to an extent. They really wanted this to be a huge axis of the PlayStation brand going into the 8th generation, and that's probably a lot. Vita, the resources and they've put into Vita is probably a lot of the reason we're not going to see any talk of PlayStation 4 for quite a while. Probably not even in 2013. I would be surprised if they made significant news about PlayStation 4. So Vita means a lot to Sony's strategy. And me personally, I think it could catch on. I think it has a chance. I mean, most system launches aren't that strong. They don't have many games at all. Most system launches, the hardcore early adopters buy it in anticipation for the eventual games that'll be out for it. Like what did PlayStation 2 launched with? Like Tekken Tag Tournament and Ridge Racer and Fantavision. I mean, like systems in general, they might have one headline game, but systems in general don't tend to have especially strong, amazing, varied launches. PlayStation Vita's launch, I see it being uncommonly strong for a new system. And I think the titles that it'll launch with will be especially stronger in the US and in Europe than they have been in Japan. A lot of those games are a bit more Western skewed that launched in Japan, like Rayman Origins and Uncharted Golden Abyss and Little Deviants to an extent. And what else? That Mod Nation Racing. I see that. I think those games. I think that's a pretty decent launch library to me, even if I wouldn't buy the system for any of those games. And I'd rank that launch selection as being higher than Nintendo 3DS's day one launch selection. And I think maybe as an independent platform, the Vita is not going to live up to its expectations. It's not going to thrive as this completely unique system. But I think as an extension of the PlayStation 3 experience, I think it has potential to catch on in time. You know, no other system, no other device offers, the highest high performance, high definition, portable, game centric portable game experience with the full select with the traditional controls, buttons and analog sticks. And Vita is the only system that has that. I mean, I have the 3DS. I love the 3DS. It's going to be my choice handle of the 8th generation. But I see that I see value in what Vita has to offer for gamers on the go who really want to take their console style experience with them. And I wouldn't be so quick to give up on this thing. I mean, people gave up on the 3DS, and it turned out to be a viable system. And when I say the Vita can be viable, I mean the PSP was viable. It didn't, stomp Nintendo into the ground, and it didn't have a constant blockbuster releases. But it was a viable platform. I think the Vita has potential to become a viable platform, and we'll see how it goes. But just all this negativity. I mean, and then there's the fact that now we have no news that there's going to be absolutely no UMD transfers on the Vita in North America, whereas in Japan you get paid varying, seemingly randomly decided fees to transfer certain UMD games onto your PlayStation Vita in a soft with free of the UMD disc, and now there's going to be absolutely no system like that in North America, and I can't decide what's hurting Sony more: the fact that they have no backwards compatibility with the PSP UMD library, and that's creating ill will, or the fact that if they did have this system and they're overcharging for people to play the same games they already own. I mean, if you buy a song on iTunes, you don't have to buy one for your computer, one for your iPod, one for your iPhone, one to play through your Apple TV. You buy the product, and then it runs on all your devices and tablets and computers. It's limited to a certain extent, but you don't have to rebuy it for every device you use it on. So this is sort of biting Sony on the butt right now. It's going to bite Nintendo on the butt too if there's not a way to transfer over Virtual Console games in a reasonable fashion onto the Wii U. And I mean, it's ridiculous with Nintendo. I mean, you could buy the game, it's registered to your Club Nintendo account, but if something happens, if your system gets destroyed or something, and you call Nintendo and say, hey, my game's got destroyed, can I transfer to my new system? They'll basically, I've heard experiences of them basically accusing you of trying to steal the games from them. Meanwhile, the My Nintendo account right there shows documented proof that you owned and registered these games. So it's kind of ridiculous that the console manufacturers are going to have to get with the digital age in terms of users feeling confident about their digital content if they expect digital to become significant beyond sort of smaller sort of purchases like legacy games and sort of smaller type stuff like Pushmo. That's what I have to. But this is all about Vita. I think it has a chance. Give it a shot. I mean, I'm not going to buy it, but I wish it. I hope it becomes viable. You know, I had the PlayStation Portable. I enjoyed it. It was a nice system, and it didn't have a whole bunch of blockbuster releases for it. You had to sort of fish for the sort of games most gamers wouldn't really consider playing. And in that sense, there are a lot of good games that most people weren't willing to try. Same with the Wii. There are a lot of third-party games on the Wii that are good games that people just aren't really willing to try because they're not big blockbusters and they're not Mario and Zelda or a first or second-party game. So, for the umpteenth time, I'm going to say again, I hope Vita does well. That's all I have to say. Thanks for watching.